Hello everyone, my name is Jerry Juice, and recently I have gotten a few requests to create a tutorial on how to create some of these buildings that I've built. Now, I'm not really a fan of those step-by-step tutorials that tell you exactly how to build things, because you don't really learn very much from those. Instead, I'd prefer to teach you the thought process I go through when I build each of these buildings, so then you can turn around and go create your own 90-second build series and overthrow my channel. And this sort of goes along with the proverb that states, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, then you feed him for a lifetime. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to fish instead of giving you the fish. So let's get started. The first thing I need to do is decide what I want to build. When I first started this 90-second build series, I just sort of built whatever interested me, like the World Trade Center, which is my first ever 90-second build. However, more recently, I followed suggestions that you guys have provided me with. So today, I'm going to be building the Washington Monument. Once I've decided what I want to build, I'm going to do some basic research on the dimensions so I can sort of get an idea of how big it's going to be. So right here, it says that's 555 feet tall and 55 feet wide at the base. And those are two of the most important dimensions I need. And another little bit of information I might want to take into account for later is that looks like the bottom third is made out of a slightly different material than the top 2/3. Sometimes it is also helpful to come here to Google Earth and get a good view of it from Street View like this. And that can also help me know what to do. Street View doesn't really help me a ton for the Washington Monument, but for other buildings it can be a huge help. And one last helpful reference is to go somewhere online and find a nice 3D model of your building. I'm here on Sketchfab, but there are plenty of other websites that will do it. And here's a model that I like because it is free, so let's download that. And I'm going to open up this model in Blender, and the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that it is scaled properly. So we already know that it's 55 feet tall, so I'm going to scale it to be that tall. And then it's also 55 feet at the base, so we need to scale it down there too. So now that we have it scaled properly, I'm going to change these units to metric, and now this will give us the dimensions in blocks. Fortunately, the Washington Monument isn't that tall, but if it was more than 255 meters tall, then we would have to scale it down a little bit more to fit it into the Minecraft world height. But yeah, using this 3D model, we can get some pretty helpful information. For example, we know that once it is 153 blocks tall, it gets a little bit less steep like that. And we know that when it gets to that point, it'll be 10.5 meters wide. And the direction I round usually will depend on whether or not we have a 1 or 2 block center. In this case, it is a 1 block center because the base rounds to 17 meters wide. Now, 3D models are very helpful, but unfortunately, not every building will have a free 3D model available for it. So if you have that problem, you're just going to need to find other sources. Once I've done enough research, and I think I know everything there is to know about building it, I can move on to the next step, which would be picking out which block I want to make it out of. So I've picked out a few options for what I could build it out of. We have the quartz bricks, the white concrete, the bone block, the cut sandstone, and the birch planks. Now, a quick word of advice for when you're building stuff at a large scale. It does not matter what the block is called. It only matters what it looks like when you are far away. For example, here my Petronas towers are made out of wool. However, you're not going to be close enough to notice that. Or over here we have my Eiffel Tower that's made entirely from wood. Except that does not matter because when you look at it from a distance, it still looks good. So now back over here to picking out which blocks I want to use for the Washington Monument. I don't really like this white concrete because it's a bit too blue. This sandstone and birchwood is a bit too yellowish and sandy, so I'm not going to pick those. And that leaves my quartz bricks and bone block. Now these blocks both have aspects I like about them. With these quartz bricks, I do like the texture. However, I do like this color of the bone block, but I think that the texture is just a little bit too bland, so I'm going to go with the quartz bricks. So now we can finally get started on actually building the Washington Monument. So, as mentioned earlier, the Washington Monument is 17 blocks wide, so we have our 17 block square right here, and it's actually quite small. We also know that as it gets higher, it also gets thinner. So at 153 blocks high, it'll be 11 blocks wide. Yeah, it slowly gets thinner as it goes up like that. So now I'm going to fill up this entire area. Now for building large things in Creative, there are two very important commands that you should know. The first of these commands is the fill command, and you do this by first looking at the corner of what you want to fill and doing /fill, and you do these coordinates. And then you go to the opposite corner that you want to fill and you add these 3 coordinates in. And then lastly, you tell it what block you want to fill it with. And we want to do it with quartz bricks, like that. And now the entire area has been filled with quartz bricks. And now this entire thing has been filled in just like 30 seconds instead of the maybe 20 minutes it would have taken if I did this by hand. Now, as I'm looking at this, we've sort of run into a small problem. And that is, it's not a very smooth transition. It's like there's just 4 very distinct sections. I'm going to try and fix this using a technique I've never tried before, where I sort of fade between each section with a spike like this. And this is a good opportunity for me to teach you the next command I'm going to show you, which would be the clone command. The first step of the clone command is to go to the northwest bottom corner of the area you want to clone, which would be right here. And you do /clone, and you add these 3 coordinates, and then you go to the southeast top corner, which for me would be right here, and I add these 3 coordinates. Then I go to the northwest bottom corner of where I want to put it, which would be this block right here, and add these 3 coordinates, and hit enter, and it's been cloned over. Yeah, I think that by fading out the transition like this, it is helping, and I think it would even be better if I made it a little bit steeper. So this time I'm going to go up 5 blocks at a time like this and see how that looks. Okay, I now have it applied all the way up the tower, and now we can move on to the next section. So at this point, the tower suddenly gets less steep, and it goes up to right here, and this is the very top of the tower. So I'm going to create a ramp down like this, and I'll just fill it all in, and the tower will be close to done. Well, I've now almost finished the very top bit. I just need to add a couple of last little details, like these 2 windows. Okay, well, we are almost done with the monument. I just have one last little detail I need to add down here. Down here, there's like this little visitor center or something that sticks out a little bit. And after I add that, the building is now basically done. Well, the Washington Monument is now done. I definitely could add more detail, but the point of this video isn't really to create the Washington Monument. It's more of just to help explain the process I go through to build it. And I think I've done that pretty well. Now there are just a few more quick tips I want to tell you about that didn't really apply to the Washington Monument, but are still very helpful. The first tip I want to tell you about is the use of the debug stick. Now this isn't something you're going to find in your regular creative inventory. You must receive it using commands. So you just want to do /give at nearest player debug stick, and you will receive one. Now the debug stick is very simple to use. Right here I have a stair that I want turned into both corners. So what you do is you left click it until you find the setting that you want. I want the shape setting. And you right click to cycle through these shapes until you find the one you want. And it's that simple to use. These next 2 tips both have to do with windows. Windows on their own can be quite boring. If you put something like a trapdoor around them, and I'm actually going to open these with a debug stick, then that will just add a little bit of extra detail to help your build look better. And my last tip for you is you should never have just one layer of glass for your windows. By having an extra layer behind it, it will help make your building look more filled and just therefore better. Well, that's all I have to tell you about how I build my buildings, but I still want to explain to you how I create my time lapses. Now to create all of my time lapses, I used the replay mod, and I'll have a link to that down in the description, and it's actually quite a nice mod. Now the replay mod is quite easy to use. To start, all I need to do is to go forward in time to the point where I want to start the time lapse and add a keyframe. And then I skip forward to the end when I'm done building it. Then I add another keyframe like that, and then I can put in whatever camera angles I want. So like maybe I want it to start like that, and then facing up. If we want a little bit of a preview, we can just click there, and it will be a little bit choppy, and sometimes it might get ahead of itself, so I might need to pause it and continue again. And yeah, this is what the time lapse would look like if we were to render it. And if we do want to render it, we just click here and we can set it to whatever resolution and frame rate we want, set the output file to whatever we want, and click render. Well, I hope that this video has been helpful to all of you, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them down in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye.